In today's latest news, we get ready for the double announcement of Pedro Neto and Omorodion, as both players are taking their medicals today right now. On top of this, I'll be discussing predicted lineups against Inter Milan tomorrow, plus more big club news. My friends, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys are feeling excited as we get closer to the end of the transfer window, because it does feel like we have one more big name signing on the way before this window ends. So hit that like button, share your thoughts and opinions, and let's get straight into things. Let's start things off by discussing tomorrow's predicted lineup against Inter Milan. This is set to be our final friendly game of pre-season. We're playing at home at the Bridge, which is a nice change of scenery for once, but I'm not gonna lie, these ticket prices are a bit mad. Let's keep things absolutely real with you, and I'm pretty curious to see how many people turn up for attendance for tomorrow's game. Regardless though, after this pre-season friendly, we take on Man City in the Premier League opener, and I'm really feeling to myself right now that this lineup must kind of show us what the plan is set to be like against Man City. The good news is we see the returns of both Cole Palmer and Marc Cucurella. Will they start in tomorrow's game? I wouldn't expect so, but maybe there could be some risks that we don't see right now. Regardless, my friends, let's get straight into things. And as you guys are seeing on screen, this is the predicted lineup I am going for right now. Now, here's my predicted lineup. As you guys are seeing, I'm going for Robert Sanchez in goal. In defense, Malo Gusto at right back. Alongside him, I'm going for Kobo, Badiashile, and I'm also going for Tosin Adarabioyo. In midfield, Lavia, Enzo and Nkunku, and up front, Raheem Sterling, Gu and Madueke. Now, starting from back to front, in goal, I do feel like based on the amount of minutes we've seen given to goalkeepers this preseason, Robert Sanchez has been leading with those minutes. I do feel like at the moment he is the number one. With Jorgensen, we haven't seen enough game time or minutes yet because he's only recently arrived. He needs a lot more time getting used to Maresca's ideas, his teammates, settling in, getting used to the country, plus so many other facets. I feel like his time for competition will come as we get closer to the Christmas period. I think he will need that time, but in the meantime, I think Robert Sanchez, purely based on the fact that this guy is very, very good with his claims and his ability to just catch a ball. I think that is a big thing to have from set pieces, so I'm going for Robert Sanchez in goal. In defense, things get interesting, but I've gone for Malo Gusto at right back because Reece James now is set to miss the next 3 games of the new Premier League season. I feel like we're at that point now that next week we play against Man City, that we have to see a backline that will be playing together for the next 3 games minimum. Is there much utility now in using Reece James in the team when he won't be taking part until the 4th game of the new season? I don't think it makes as much sense, and I think we have to start building the relationship in our defense. We're seeing poor miscommunication. No one's controlling that defense. That's one of the things we lack by having no experience in our defense. But on top of that too, we're seeing so much miscommunication and so much mismanagement when our defense has to like push up and move back. I know Maresca's being quite, not critical, but he's been saying things like this high line type of strategy is so ingrained in these players that it's going to take them a long time to get used to, kind of deprogramming their ways of thinking in defense right. I understand that, but equally, we weren't necessarily that much of a higher line team last season. I think it doesn't make as much sense. If anything, I'm seeing this disconnect between our back four and the rest of the team when it comes to pressing, because when the opposition are on the ball facing our goal, that should be the cue for the defense to push up. But a lot of times we're seeing moments where the opposition's on the ball from the back, we've not pushed up, and there's this massive gap between our midfield and our defense. That has to improve. We've been torn apart throughout pre-season based on this miscommunication. We've not really seen any strong signs of improvement. Hopefully against Inter Milan tomorrow we see a bit more of something. But regardless, right now we have to start using players that will be playing together for the next few games. And listen, I think Cucurella would have started for me, but I think he's only just returned. Maybe he'll come on as a sub. But I think defense right now, based on what I've seen, I think Badia, Cole, who knows who plays as the left back. We've seen both players take turns in that area, but I do think that maybe Adarabioyo's type of experience may just edge him over Wesley Fofana, who's still like a little bit rusty for very understandable reasons. Now ahead, Romeo Lavia has started every single game this preseason. I see him starting in the Premier League opener. Caicedo is not ready just yet, and the great thing about having Lavia here now is that there's no pressure on Caicedo to be introduced straight to the first team like there was last season when he was really rusty for the next few months. I think Lavia, of course, isn't necessarily perfect but has great promise in this game, and I think he's shown a lot of positive play, being that orchestrator out from the back, helping us play through the press and kick-starting moves right. Ahead of him, I feel like the best balance I've seen is when Nkunku is playing as an offensive 8, and I think alongside him, Enzo Fernandez. It does seem like Nkunku has more license to be inside the box, and it feels like Enzo has more license to withdraw a little bit deeper, so he can use his passing in behind to kind of influence the play for us. Is it necessarily perfect? No, because the pressing from either one isn't perfect, and really in this team, and when you look at this lineup, like the pressing from the top isn't necessarily the strongest aspect of this team, right? And that's something to think about. But up front, of course, Noni Madueke playing right wing, being one of the most consistent players this preseason. You know, I feel like he'll have a good game against Inter Milan, and he's a dead set starter against Man City. Up front, Mark Yu, because he's the only striker. But at the same time, would I be surprised if Nkunku played up front in preparation for Man City, and maybe Caicedo, Enzo and Lavia, or Kid and Dewsbury Hall became that midfield 3. But the reason why I've gone for Gu up front instead of Nkunku is I just feel like this team needs a bit of a focal point, and I think Gu's pressing from the front is important. We need a bit of balance when it comes to that, right? So I've gone for Gu over Nkunku, even though I wouldn't be surprised if Nkunku starts against Inter Milan. And obviously left wing has to be, I guess, Sterling at this point in time. I just feel a bit more confidence from him, which isn't saying too much because he's kind of been so-so again this preseason. But compared to Mudryk, who's not really shown much of anything this preseason, I just can't feel comfortable starting Mudryk when you know, we're getting ready now for Man City. So that is my predicted lineup for tomorrow. Share your thoughts and opinions. How do you guys feel? Let us know below, and if you disagree with the lineup, tell us what your lineup is in the comments below. And the news we have been waiting for has finally been revealed, as Pedro Neto has completed his medical today, and he is set to be announced tomorrow in our friendly game against Inter Milan. So stay tuned for that. As we've known, Pedro Neto travelled to London yesterday to kickstart his medical with us. He is set to sign a 6-year deal, undisclosed wages at the moment, but he's very excited to be signing for us. In total, this deal will be around £54 million. The club felt pretty proud of themselves that they were able to keep this move under wraps for the 2 months it took to negotiate this move. We've now just learned that Man City made a late attempt to try and sign Pedro Neto. So it makes even more sense as to why we had to keep this move under wraps, but it also communicates the confidence we have in Neto, in the player's ability, what he can bring for us, and that's reflected by the secrecy we moved in to make sure no other interested parties got a whiff of what was going on. And how I see it is that whatever money we had to make this ambitious attempt for Nico Williams, we're now diverting those funds into signing the second guy on our list. And I think Pedro Neto has a lot to show. Obviously injuries, listen, if you're going to judge him by his stats, they look all right, but it's a lot of money we're spending for those type of stats, right, in terms of goals and assists. But I do think that after the season he had last season, I think he is back on the rise again, and I have a bit of faith and belief in him. The great thing about his signing too is I do see him having more of like a long-term impact in our squad, because let's say in the future, in the next few windows, we decide to sign another winger. We know Estefan William will be signing from next season as well too. If in the future Neto became a squad player, he actually becomes a useful one, as he can play on the right wing and the left wing, has tons of experience in the league and internationally as well too, and I feel like he's a bit of a future-proof signing in that sense that could always help us out regardless of anything. But he has a big opportunity now to stake himself as one of the best wingers in the Premier League by signing for us. So my friends, get ready for the official announcement of Pedro Neto tomorrow. And now let's move on to discussing the latest on Omorodion. And currently we know Omorodion now is in London completing his medical, and at the moment it does seem like we could potentially see a double signing announcement. Now we're moving in quick haste now to get ready for our game against Man City. I'd imagine Omorodion will have some type of impact there because Nico Jackson still isn't ready. He may not be playing against Inter Milan tomorrow, and we can't just have Mark Yu up front. Now, interesting news from Matt Law suggests that Omorodion could even potentially be moved out on loan this season. Either one of Gu or Omorodion could move out on loan, depending if we can secure Victor Osimhen. Realistically, we can't have Nico, Gu, Omorodion, and Osimhen in the same lineup. That makes no sense. That's the latest surrounding both players as they are finalizing and completing medicals today. We now move on to a big report that's come out from Damasio. And listen, Damasio is someone that I trust so much when it comes to reporting stories. He was the first one to confidently state that Maresca was going to be our number one. And this guy has big connects and he knows what he's talking about, right? But anyway, we know that Juventus are in the market now to sign a winger. They're currently in negotiations with Fiorentina's Argentinian winger, Nico Gonzalez. They haven't agreed terms yet, but at the moment it's set to be a loan option with an obligation to buy attached at around 30 million euros, which ain't too bad. They've missed out on a ton of winger prospects. Adeyemi was a big one they wanted. Jadon Sancho, of course, is someone they still have on their list, but Damasio now has reported that Raheem Sterling is a player Juventus also want to add on top of signing Nico Gonzalez as well. That is big news. As he reports, Juventus are currently exploring the conditions to complete this operation to get the move, because ideally they prefer to sign him on loan first with potential obligations or options to buy in the end. Now for us, after recently signing Pedro Neto, if you're able to potentially get Raheem Sterling off that wage bill, he's our highest earning player, earning around 300,000 plus a week. It's a crap ton of money. I think we're all kind of understanding and thinking what the idea from would be, right? If you're taking Raheem Sterling off the wage bill, but still exploring the possibility to sign Victor Osimhen on a loan, as we know, the hold up in this deal is that Osimhen wants his wages satisfied. He doesn't want to take any hits in his wages right now. We have shown a possibility to be flexible in terms of matching that, but to really give us a strong hope of doing that, getting Sterling off the wage bill could be the key and way forward to completing this move on loan, right? Raheem Sterling even finds himself out on loan for a whole year. That gives us flexibility, of course, to then try out Victor Osimhen on a year first. One high earning player out to replace him with another high earning player that gives us something up front could be a very interesting move, and it's one to watch before this window closes by the end of this month. Of course, it's not as simple though, because Juventus will really have to not only find the conditions that favor both parties, but also find conditions with Raheem Sterling, because on one side of the argument, Sterling doesn't really have to move. He's on massive money. Him and his family are settled in London. Is he willing to disrupt family life to pursue his own professional needs? Listen, for us on this side, it's very easy for us to be like, what do you mean you put your career on top of everything? But listen, footballers have responsibilities and duties to their family as well too, right? And their kids, and they simply just can't always just follow their dad wherever they go. And a lot of times players don't make the moves when they're supposed to based on family reasons and family matters. So let's see what happens here. Last season, Sterling got 8 goals, 8 assists in 31 games. It's an okay record. There were particular highs he had, like against City, West Ham and a few others, but then there were those typical inconsistencies. And I think with the money he's been on, you're hoping he could have been our talisman who was consistently bringing that threat week in, week out, which he hasn't really justified for the money he is on at this point in time. I don't think he's a bad player. He can be frustrating for sure. He had moments last season where he lost a lot of confidence. He came back though, but still, you know, you're thinking to yourself, he's had like 3 years and we haven't really seen too much at the moment consistently, right? So let's see if Juventus can find an agreement. Fingers crossed. Now to start things off, we're learning that the club are still planning on selling 6 to 7 players before the window ends. We're learning that Bashir Humphreys is a player we are hoping to sell either on loan, but ideally on a permanent deal, with Leeds United showing strong interest in signing the young defender. We are set to react to what the market can offer us, because depending on the offers we can receive before this window ends, we could potentially sign a big name player, with that player most likely being Victor Osimhen on loan first, but there's possibilities that we could sign other players to improve the team depending on who goes first. We're learning that Winston Lee and Stewart are working 16-hour days. It makes a lot of sense. They're constantly holding conversations when it comes to recruitment, current negotiations, finding moves on loan, engineering transfer moves for players, answering to the ownership, the manager, plus so much, so I can understand the work they're putting in. Carnes could potentially leave as he's getting strong interest now from AC Milan and from Barcelona as well, and with the competition we have ahead of him. The moment we signed Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, that also told me that Carnes' future may be in doubt, because otherwise, why not just keep him and promote him in this team? And another player that could leave is Ben Chilwell, as it has been revealed by Matt Law that Maresca, of course, as we've all known and expected, doesn't seem in his tactical plans, because Ben is a player that prefers to attack the books, overlap, and ideally that left back will be the inverted option for Maresca this season. So let's see what type of offers Ben could potentially attract. Gabriel Salina has joined Barnsley on a season-long loan. Alongside that, we're learning that Eddie Beach, another reserve keeper, is joining Crawley Town on loan for the season. Let's see what happens there. And I guess we just wait for announcements now surrounding George Petrovic. Could he go to Fiorentina? Could he go to Strasbourg? Time will tell. On top of that, let's discuss more club news, as Matt Law has revealed that Chalobah has now been barred from first team training. Now, for myself, since the club signed Tosin, who the club probably saw as the free version of Chalobah, I knew his fate was sealed at that moment, right? The moment he's been told to train with the academy players, but that's not just him exclusively. They've also told Lukaku and Broja now to train with the academy players. Broja right now has a lot of interest, but nothing concrete in terms of a move. Juventus have been exploring the possibility of signing him on loan as backup to Vlahovic. Let's see what happens there. With Lukaku though, things are pretty interesting. As we know, he will be key to our efforts to sign Osimhen, but Aston Villa now are showing that they now are more than willing and ready to pay the full £37.5 million release clause to sign him for their squad for this season. Now, they have Champions League football. That could be very attractive for Lukaku. He could earn big money, way more than what he done at Napoli. But at the same time, does he want to come back to the Premier League? Is he more comfortable now just remaining in Italy, where he's showing that, listen, he's having a pretty decent career, remaining in Serie A? Time will tell, but then getting that full 37.5 million and getting him off the wage bill, that's pretty attractive. And I think it really comes down to whether we can find an agreement with Osimhen, because if we can't, why accept Napoli's offer when we can get the full money now from Aston Villa? So let's continue to watch the story. But ending things with Chalobah again, the club are hoping to earn around 30 to 35 million, but new reports suggest that a bit of 25 million could be enough. Now, Chalobah's been rejecting interest now from Wolves, from Fulham and Crystal Palace, and it makes sense. He's been playing in Europe. He doesn't want to take a step down in his career, and I completely agree with that, because I think he's better than those clubs. And I actually think, and I think we all think this, he's still one of our best defenders. And if not for the transfer meddling, signing your Disassis and Badias and signing a few of these guys who are showing that they aren't actually better than Chalobah, obviously you can see why a lot of fans are feeling a bit pissed off with everything happening around a player that's been here since he was 8 years old, dies for the club, done so much for us over the years. And these are the players that you can have a connection to, that really understand what the club's about, and they maintain their consistency on the field week in, week out. Chalobah has taken this news like a man. He's accepted things very professionally, even though reports have stated that his teammates are a bit confused by the treatment he is receiving. The club probably have to play a bit nasty now to force him out, because for them, they think, listen, we have our squad right now. You're not going to be here. We don't want you. Now, for the next 3 weeks, focus on finding your move away now. Obviously, it's not nice, but that's the game, right, my friends? So on that note, I'm going to wrap things up now. Keep things moving. Share your thoughts and opinions below, my friends. And on that note, I am Nini FC. This is BlueLionsTV. See you all tomorrow.